Pray with me if you would. God, we ask now that you would help us all not so much listen to me, but to try to catch a glimpse of your voice in my words. Help me to listen while I speak, remembering that perhaps I the most need to hear this message today. Help us all to hear something in this reflection that takes this story that we know so well past a place of intellect in our minds, that it might root in our hearts in such a way as to transform us all into something closer to the people you would have us all be. We ask this in your Son's name. Amen. This story of the 10 lepers and the one who comes back is one of those that we just know it so well, and we can then sort of gloss over it or think that, well, I was taught what that means, right? And I think it's one of those that, because we know it so well and it seems so straightforward, and we've probably, most of us, wrestled with it over, in Sunday school, or heard sermons about it so often, or maybe preached a couple sermons on it now by this point, that we really can just sort of settle into a groove and go, oh yeah, that's one of the good oldies, and forget the invitation should always be, what does it say to us today? This is another great way to look at it. Who should I think of myself as in this story today? Am I supposed to hear it with the ears of the one Samaritan who came back and gave thanks? Should I hear it with the ears of the 9 who got so busy running on for their lives that they forgot to say thank you? Should I be hearing it today from the place of Jesus? From the place of someone who's waiting? Well, I healed 10. Where are the other 9? Those are each different aspects to put yourself in. I know where you're at today. I think I need to put myself more often than not in those 9 that just rush off and get so busy that I forget to say thank you. It's important to remember that, like so many of Jesus' interactions, it's important that he said, 9 of you were supposed to know what to do. We discount those Samaritans and their wrong religious practices all the time, but it's the Samaritan who remembered to come back and say thank you. We church folks need to remember that. Just because we do all the right things at the right time and right places when we gather to worship doesn't mean we remember it when we put it into play out in the world. A really quick, and it really was a very quick Google about gratitude brought some great sayings, and I could have spent 15 minutes just reading you the great quotes that come up about gratitude. But I'll share a couple. There was, turn of the century, a Christian inspirational writer. His name was William Arthur Ward. Most of us would have been familiar with his work in Reader's Digest. He's one of those people who just had all these great little quotes. He didn't write great big works, but he wrote inspirational sayings. I love this one. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and then not giving it. Right? I think I'm guilty of that a lot. Feeling gratitude and not giving it. Not expressing. It's like, well, that's great that you wrapped that present all up and then left it sitting somewhere. I think we do that to God, and too often we do that to others. This is a quote from Willie Nelson, that philosopher, Willie Nelson. He really is. He really is. All great songwriters are. When I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. Right? You go through your life, and you can either be aware of and count your blessings or not. He came to a point in his life, if you know his story, it was a very rough period of his life. And gratitude, counting his blessings, turned his life around. And then this comes from Albert Einstein. There are only 2 ways to live your life. One though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. If we go through life looking at everything like a miracle, we can't help but be grateful people. And then the challenge is to say thank you each and every time we realize, oh, that was a miracle. That was a miracle. This is a miracle. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you look up grateful in the dictionary, you'll find appreciative of benefits received. That's A. So just appreciative, that's in here. But then B, expressing gratitude. I think it's important to know you can have both those things. One is that wrapped present that just you hold, and then the second is giving that wrapped present away. I was thinking about this saying, having an attitude of gratitude. You should have an attitude of gratitude. That's great. We should have an attitude of gratitude. But if that's it, we just carry that wrapped present around inside us. And that feels good for us. But what a waste that we don't often enough say, thank you. I saw what you did there. I appreciate it. There's a point at which simply feeling grateful just has to translate into saying thank you. Or we're really wasting that feeling of gratitude within us. I've had the experience of being with a family that had extended friends of family together for a Thanksgiving dinner, Thanksgiving dinner. And it's a day that we set aside for giving thanks. Right? We were all sitting around the table, and the father at the head of the table said, I want us to go around the table and say what we're thankful for today. Go around the table, and all of the usual things get lifted up. I'm thankful for my job. I'm thankful for family. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for friends, for home. I'm thankful for freedom. And then we got done, and there was no prayer of thanksgiving. Just sort of a nodding of, wasn't that nice that we're all thankful? And then we ate the meal. And it just was so incomplete for me, but it really left me thinking, what do people who don't believe in or acknowledge God, or to use the 12-step higher power, no acknowledgement of something greater, someone, something that provides, when they say they're thankful or grateful, to who? To what? How can you be thankful if you can't identify someone, something to give thanks to? The 9 knew who to thank. The 10th knew and did thank. While I'm sure that God is very pleased when we walk around with our grateful hearts, I believe He's even more pleased when we walk around with thankful lips, thankful tongues that match our grateful hearts. For all we know, the 9 were overflowing internally with gratefulness, with gratitude. For all we know, when they got to the priest to present themselves, they might have prayed a prayer of thanksgiving. And it wouldn't be a stretch to say that happened. But even if that happened, we're left with Jesus standing there saying, well, weren't there 10? Weren't there 10? Those 9, even if they had those hearts overflowing with gratitude, none of it spilled out of their mouth Jesus. We have to remember that when God blesses us, it's most often through someone here on earth. And it really isn't enough to sit in private or in gatherings like this and say, thank you, God, as appropriate as that is, without then remembering to say thank you to the instruments of God's blessing. I'm looking at Michael here right now as I'm saying this, and it's humbling as a pastor to stand here and to say, I don't say thank you to my wife enough. I can stand up here in front of you and thank God all day long, and if I forget to say thank you, Michael, I'm not remembering to thank one of the chief ways that God blesses me. Comes a point when we have to ask ourselves, am I not more often than not guilty of being the 9 and not being that 10% that remember to say thank you? When even though we are full of gratitude, that we forget to thank the vehicles through whom God chooses to bless us. We read this story, we hear this story, and we rightly feel Jesus' disappointment at that meager 10% appreciation ratio that he gets. It's appropriate, I think, to challenge ourselves. Do I even thank 10% of the people through whom God blesses me on a daily basis? I think the most polite of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we kind of leave Christ, and when we say Christ, we need to think of incarnate God, God dwelling among us. I think we leave Jesus hanging, just like the 9, when we fail to say thank you to the people that work on our behalf. I think most of us are pretty good at saying thank you to checkout workers, to waitresses, receptionists, to sales staff that help us in stores. You know, those frontline workers who are very visibly providing service to us. But how many of us, and boy, I'm listening to myself say this, how many of us go past that front line and thank all of those people who work behind the scenes to make sure that we can live our lives in the way that we do, who work on our behalf out of sight? I don't do it often enough, but once in a while, I remember as I'm leaving a restaurant, especially if it's been a particularly pleasant meal and the food's been particularly good, I just can't help myself when I remember it. I'll yell back into the kitchen, hey, thank you! In the back, thank you, it was really good. And I know it doesn't happen very often because they're always surprised. And also, everybody in the restaurant looks at me like, what is that guy doing? Because we don't do that. Somehow, in our culture, we don't do that. I'm out of line. When I say, hey, thank you. The waitress didn't cook my meal. The receptionist didn't cook my meal. You guys sweating in the back cooked my meal. I'm not patting myself on the back because I don't do it often enough. And it's just a reflection of the fact that we don't do it often enough. And why don't we? Why don't we thank the stock boy who's filling the shelves that we have to wait, move our cart around in the aisle? Why don't we thank the data entry person who's sitting behind the receptionist at the doctor's office, who's slavishly filling out those forms? Important stuff. We want our insurance to go through. Why don't we, on our way out of the restaurant, stop the dishwasher? Say, thank you. I really appreciated the clean plates. Why don't we thank the crews filling potholes or other public service out on the streets? Looking at Bruce. How shocked would you be if you were at some work site? People said, I just want to thank you, as opposed to, I can't believe you're tying things up. And you'd be blown away, wouldn't you? Yeah. What if we thanked the person cleaning the restroom instead of, are you about done? I don't know, this may just be me. Standing there, I can't believe you're cleaning the restroom now. Thank you for making sure I have a clean restroom. If we're mindful, as we're lifting prayers of thanksgiving over our meals, we'll remember to thank God for the labor of those who are working out in the fields. And we do that. I often remember to do that. Thank you, God. Thank you for the hands that prepared it. Thank you for the hands that worked in the factories. Thank you for those that labored in the fields. And we lift up, rightfully, we lift up those prayers. But would any of us think about taking a drive up to the Central Valley on a really hot day and walking out into the fields and saying to Jesus, thank you for feeding me. Thank you for your hard work on my behalf. And for that matter, you just take a look at that standard Thanksgiving list that we lift up. I'm thankful for my job. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for my friends, my freedom, my family. Do we often enough thank our employer? I get a chance right now. Thank you all. And really, thank you. Gainful employment. I've got the best job in the world. You pay me to be the best Christian I can be. Oh. And you pay me whether I succeed or not. But do we thank often enough our employers? Do we thank our health physicians? Not just our doctor. Do we thank the techs? Right? Thank you. Thank you for being here to read the data. Right? We often say we're grateful for our freedom, but do we often enough, especially on non-holidays, thank our servicemen and women, our veterans? I love it when I see people doing that out in public, just stopping someone in uniform and saying, thank you. Thank you for your service. Do we say thank you to our families enough for being our family? Be grateful about it all day. But do we say thank you? Because we all know people that whose families aren't family for them. Right? So when we have families that really are what families should be, and what we hope it to be, why do we not more often say thank you? And then, of course, remembering in all that to then go back and thank God, who's the source of all the love that's and care that all those people have given us. I want to close with another one of these great quotes. It's from the novelist Alice Walker. She's the author of The Color Purple. That's sort of her most famous, but writes definitely from a Christian perspective. And she says, thank you is the best prayer that anyone can say. I say that one a lot. Thank you expresses extreme gratitude, humility, and understanding. One person remembered to come back out of 10 and say thank you to Jesus. I think we all need to be reminded to at least be that 10%, not so often be part of the 90%. That may walk around with hearts full of gratitude that just never spills across our lips and tongue. Pray with me. God, we give you thanks for this reminder through this teaching that has been passed now through the centuries to us. Give you thanks for the way that you've blessed the world through your Son, Jesus. Give you thanks for the power that came from you, that he was able to put into play. We give you thanks for that one Samaritan who remembered, gave us the example to say thank you, not only to you, but to the person through whom you worked. Help us on a more consistent basis to do just that, to give you thanks by thanking those through whom you work in our lives. We ask these blessings in your Son's name. Amen. All right, we're going to sing our hymn of invitation. We know what the standard invitation is, but I want you to each think whether you've heard some other invitation from God. It might have been this morning, it might have been in the days before today. If you felt the stirring within you of God's Spirit, an invitation to do something new, and you haven't gotten back to God yet, take this time. Don't leave God hanging. Let God know. I've heard, even if you're still thinking about it, let God know that you've heard. Let's stand and sing together. Hymn number 339. We're going to sing all verses of Just As I Am without one plea.